So I want to talk to kind of what we consider probably the three of the biggest game changers in this space. So we've got looking at things differently. So first and foremost, EPCs, they need to go. And I'll go to that in the next step. We need a better measurement tool that is much more dynamic and allows lenders to track how their emissions are reducing in real time over the course of a property's life as work goes on. So to that point, we're very keen on the idea of having digital logbooks. So something very much like the logbook for your car, but for your property, something that stays with your property. It records when work's been done, what work's been done, and also is able to link into some of the more interesting projects like that we're doing around potentially getting your real life data from your smart meters. So you can actually start to see the impact of the work that you get to do. And critically, we need to disaggregate cost of supply of electricity and of power from fabric of the building interventions. EPCs now wrap that up, and you can have a situation where a heat pump actually takes your property from an EPC to an EPCC to an EPCD. So we need to kind of square those circles. So that's one of the big areas that we're working on. Clearly, within particularly in the kind of social housing market and where you need to do kind of larger scales retrofits, there's a huge role that can be played by development banks and kind of the public finance institutions, particularly around things like governments taking a slice of risk, so providing an element of a guarantee to loans to help de-risk the loan for the lender and free up more capital and thereby reducing the cost. This is not a long-term sustainable model, but it is a good model for getting a market moving. And we certainly, the retrofitting right now, it's still a bit kind of boutique, and we need to make it feel a bit more IKEA for everyone and be able to really get there. And then last but absolutely not least, property linked finance. So in the States and in France and Germany as well, they have something called PACE lending. And essentially, this means that if you're getting work done to your property, and I always take the example of, when my husband and I first bought our first flat, I think we had about 32 pence in the bank account by the time that we'd kind of paid all the fees and all the rest of it. And if somebody had come to us and said, "Oh, but if you could just spend £1,000 on doing X, Y, and Z," we would have, it was just a physical impossibility. So what property, and we knew that we weren't going to stay there for a long time. It was the first property. So you don't want to make that kind of bigger investment into something you're not necessarily figuring out value, particularly if it's like a high cost, or 10 grand or so. So property linked finance, what it does is it looks at a major bit of work on a property and that has maybe a 20-year payback period. And actually the debt then stays with the property and gets recouped via, well, in the States, they use it via property taxes. There would need to be kind of changes here, but you could actually recoup something like that through council tax. So actually what you have then is either a 0% or a very, very low percentage loan that's being paid off over a long period of time, and it's very much user pays. This is, really can take away a lot of that upfront cost. And so really, when we're looking at the huge upfront cost barriers that we have, there are things that can be done with critically getting the right data points so you can track them, and some of the legislative changes that we can bring in.